Every memory we hold in our mind is not the original story. Every time we think back to a particular experience, what happens is we add bits, we forget bits. It's kind of like to meet our own agenda, to have that confirmation bias. But what is also happening is we're actually just trying to remember it. And as the years progress, we kind of forget little bits. And so the original memory is not the original event that took place. So this means we can change the story about our emotional past pain at any moment. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. For those that are new here, my name is Christina and I help empower people on their spiritual and healing journey so they can have a more fulfilling and purposeful driven life. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you're notified of when I post a video, because I'm currently posting a video every single day. So the story we tell ourselves about our past is just that, a story. It's a meaning we've given to a particular experience. If we experienced a difficult situation, maybe some trauma, just some chronic stress growing up or in our adult life, what happens is we give it a meaning. This is because what happens is that we internalize that experience as that it is who I am. This experience is telling me something about myself. It's what is this environment telling me about myself? So when we are growing up, if we experience something very stressful and traumatic in our environment, what happens is that we internalize that and we give it a meaning, and then the ego will attach onto that story we've given it, and then we become that story. Because what happens is then when we give it a meaning, we've given it a story and a belief about ourselves. So then this is when the ego will think, well, this is who I am, and now I have this story and this memory attached to all my emotional past pain. But here's the funny thing, everything in life has actually no meaning, because we are the ones that are giving it the meaning. We say, well, that's a chair because it's a chair. We say, well, that particular experience happened to me and now I am a victim, and now I hold that belief about myself. Mummy and daddy did this thing and now that means I am not worthy, I'm not good enough. We internalize that story and that belief about ourselves, and then we continue to operate from that belief, which is operating from the lens of your perspective of those stories that you are holding on to. So in this video, I'm going to take you through a powerful reframing technique that will help you to come back into neutrality and reframe your emotional past pain, your past stories, so then you're able to heal them and not continue to operate from those emotional wounds. So when I was in secondary school, which here in the UK is like our teenage years from ages of 11 to 16, in the first about three to 4 years, particularly the first 3 years of secondary school, which is year 7, year 8 and year 9, I was particularly outcasted. I was very lonely. I didn't really have any friends. I didn't really go to school that much. I would try and make up excuses. I was very depressed. Looking back at it now, I could tell I was probably highly depressed, and I was just extremely lonely because I had no friends. And so every time there was the morning break or the lunch break, I would have to think to myself, and I would think about, well, how am I going to spend this time to plan, like, where am I going to go? Am I going to have my lunch? Where I'm going to spend my time, so then nobody would see me wandering around on my own and feel like some loser or something. So I would strategically like plan, like, this is the time I'm going to go into the canteen, get my lunch, sit there, quickly eat it, and then I'm going to go to the library. A lot of the time I spent my time in the library and just on the computers and reading books, because that felt safe and secure, away from a lot of people, and I just didn't want to wasting my time wandering around on my own. And so this meant during this time I felt very lonely. I internalized this as a lot of like, well, there's something wrong with me. I gave it the story of like, nobody likes me, like I'm like an outcast, like I have no friends, there must be something wrong with me. What the fuck is wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why can't I just have friends? Why am I depressed? Why do I hate school so much? I would come up with all these stories about myself, because that was what I was experiencing in my reality. And this is just how I would spend my breaks at school. And then years later, going back probably a year now, I was sat at home reading a book. It was actually a book about tantric. And when I was reading something, this memory popped up of me being in the library and thinking about all the times I was feeling alone and I have to go and to these different places to hide and spend my lunch break. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, why has this memory come up? And it was nothing to do with anything I was reading in that book, but it came to the surface. And when things like this come to the surface, often this means it's ready to be seen, it's ready to be felt, witnessed, it's ready to be healed. And so what I did was I put the book down and I just sat there. I was actually in bed at this moment, and I just placed my hand on my heart. And what I did, I visualized my older self, me now as an adult, going back to that younger self. I was probably about 14 years old at the time. I visualized walking into the library, going up to my younger self and just giving the most biggest hug ever. And in that moment, when I was visualizing that, I felt a huge like wave of emotion come over me, and I was just bawling, and I felt very heavy in my heart, and I felt very just emotional, and I just let it all out, because this is what it was needing in that moment. And when I was still visualizing this is what I did to reframe this whole situation. Instead of me having the story of like, this was a really hard fucking time in my life, I was really depressed, nobody liked me, blah, 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 I spoke to my younger self and reframed it in that visualization. And I said to my younger self, this is not where you picked up all of these unworthiness things, these things about yourself. You are loved, you are whole, you are complete. I said all these wonderful things. But what I also said, I reframed that whole memory. I said to her, this experience was where you picked up your organization skills. This was where you picked up your ability to plan, your ability to pay attention to detail, know what's going to happen. So I reframed it from that negative experience to this positive experience. And so this is the powerful technique that I did. It was very powerful because I felt a huge emotional release when I visualized going back and reframing all of those beliefs, those stories I had about that experience. And once I did that, I kind of opened my eyes and I felt lighter. It had gone completely. I felt like, well, that memory had been healed in that moment. That belief I was holding about myself in that moment was finally released. And we can do this at any moment. We can reframe our past emotional experiences to one or more of a positive thing. Because when we reach neutrality, It is such a powerful vibration to be at, because neutrality is right in the middle of the higher vibration emotions and the heavier, denser emotions in the scale of consciousness. And so when we reach neutrality, we are completely neutral about everything in our experience. So then we have that powerful ability to either choose a positive meaning about something, or the ability to choose a negative meaning about something, because everything is neutral. And when we're in neutrality, this is when we're releasing guilt, we're releasing shame, we feel neutral about our experiences. And I've experienced this very strongly for myself as well, because there was this secret that I was holding on to, which I'm not going to like explain now because it's very personal to me. And there was a secret I was holding on to that I didn't even tell my partner, and I'd been together with him for probably about 10-12 years at that time. And when I began to do this inner work, the belief work, healing my inner child, I became completely neutral about this thing that happened to me, this secret I was holding on to. I felt no guilt, no shame associated with it. And I was almost laughing about it because I couldn't believe how much of a hold I was letting this secret have on myself. And I told my partner, and it was fine. And I'm able to come from such a neutral place about so many of my experiences now, rather than being triggered. I can talk openly about a lot of things because I'm neutral about it, because I can reframe these experiences, because I've gone into the visualization process and reframed this and met my inner child, met my inner teenager. And you can do this today. So if you want to go and meet your inner child and do a visualization process to meet them and love them again, I recommend you checking out this video next, which is a guided meditation to meet your inner child. So with that being said, I will see you in that video. Much love.